This is the Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
All right, here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Off and rolling. Final Monday of 2020. The shit show that has been 2020. We're about to put it in the book, kiss it goodbye, and move on to 2021. Hashtag Real Race Talk from Texas. Showtime, Bobby Chaffee down south, Rodney Rodriguez up north. As we spread our wings, we cover the territory, Bobby, and I'm not going to ask you how your day's been because I know. But here we are, man. We're knocking on the door of getting to a new year. You know, we act like things are going to, like, mysteriously be different, but, I mean, still got a while to go with all this mess.
Yeah, it looks like it's still going to be a long time to go, but a lot of things coming. Yeah, you're right. Been a long day so far for a Monday, but trying to make the best of it the best we can. Glad to be back on the air, even though normally I enjoy it when the show we sit there as we run side by side to run the Revved Up Sports Show. But looks like today got to run a little remotely this evening.
Yeah, it all works. I mean, that's the one thing that we have figured out through all of this is we figured out creative ways to get this thing on the air. So luckily, we've had some practice, so we're able to get it done today. A belated happy birthday to Gina Shile Knowles, who turned, well, we're not going to talk about her age, but she had a birthday yesterday, so happy birthday.
She gave it away. She gave it away.
Oh, did she give it away? Okay. So she hit that, what is that, mid-century? No, or is that too old?
Golden era.
Golden era. I can't laugh. I'm right there with her, but happy birthday to Gina. I saw that she got to spend the day away from everything, and of course she was working on Saturday doing her thing, so happy birthday to her. Programming reminder coming up next Monday on the show right here. We will be joined by Owen Pittman, and we will release he will release, I don't know what it is. We will know what the 2021 Texana Raceway Park schedule is. I bet it's going to be a doozy.
I bet it will be. There's no telling to see who's going to be on there. It looks like we've heard the rumblings that he's picked up some big time sponsors for this upcoming year. So hopefully, that promoter of the year did not go unnoticed for Owen, but hopefully everything will be a lot better in terms of having him get his stuff together. You know, the fact that he's not having to pick up the pieces in January and he's only having to put the pieces together should make for an even better show there at Texana Raceway Park there in 2021.
Speaking of promoters on this program today, we've got a couple of really good ones. Track operator, 7 o'clock. We will be joined by Rusty Marcus, New Smyrna Speedway, and then 7:30. Kevin Rogers at RPM Speedway and KR Promotions, their LLC. And Kevin's one of those dudes where, Bobby, as we've watched the not resurgence, but emergence and dominance of dirt track racing in Texas, that Kevin Rogers is one of those guys who kind of drew that circle around his name and pin and said, we've got to talk to this dude because they got some stuff happening over there.
Yeah, they're definitely doing everything right up there at RPM Speedway. And nice to see Rusty Marcus finally getting some love, not only from us, but nationally with the work he's done down there at New Smyrna with the Speed Weeks and the Red Eye coming up and all of that. You know, Rusty has Texas ties. We'll get into about the way when he was up running the Lone Star Legend Series here a couple of summers ago there in Fort Worth.
And indeed, my man John Witchy checking in there. South Texas schedule is out, and that's a good one right there. And I think this is going to be this year for South Texas. I think is going to be something pretty special. A lot of these tracks is going to be something pretty special, but I think South Texas is right there at the top of the list. Where I think with what everything they have going on and just the stuff behind the scenes, where this is going to be a year where I think they really take that next step and could be a dominant year, especially now, because I know there were still some rumblings going around, but our man Tom Taylor posted yesterday or over the weekend there as he took his wife off to a romantic getaway in Corpus, and they wound up at CC Speedway. Tom it's like, come on, dude, what? Took her off for a romantic getaway, and that's the best you can do? But place still looks the same, but a little more overgrown.
It really did. The track surface looked a lot similar to it was before. Obviously, there's a few more little tidbits with the grass growing up there, but the surface itself, it looked almost exactly the same,
just like it did
with the pictures that Tom took. So sad to see that place go. Obviously, nothing officially been announced, but as Tom alluded to on his Facebook post, talked to somebody that was involved in the purchase of the facility. Looks like it's they didn't purchase it to continue to run it at a racetrack.
Yeah, apparently the owner or part owner or part of the ownership group, whatever it is affiliated with a salvage operation. I ain't saying junkyard after last week. I'm not saying junkyard after last week. A salvage operation there, and I don't know if that may be the plan there, but the future does not appear to be that it's going to continue to be what it is right now, and that is unfortunate. Heart of Texas schedule, the question there on the Facebook feed as well. Jump on that Facebook. Give us your New Year's resolutions, whether it's racing related or personal. If it's too personal, maybe message us. Don't get into too personal stuff there. But the Heart of Texas schedule is out, and it is full. It's sitting on my desk, and I can tell you that is one jam-packed. There's a Saturday race and then a Sunday race the first part of the season, I think in February, and then you go into your Friday night stuff until you get all the way to the Fall Nationals. But they are BTW, just as they always been at Heart of Texas, and that's not surprising. I mean, they've been doing it that way for 54 years. This will be year 55, and they do it well.
Yeah, definitely one of the staples of Central Texas racing. Obviously, it's still there. It's probably one of the most well-known tracks if you think about its proximity not only to Waco, but proximity to 35. Even through all the different years of all the constructions on 35, obviously the parking lots got a little bit smaller, but when you come through and you get to see the evolution of that track, I just passed it the other day coming back from Dallas on Saturday, or on Sunday rather. And it would be, reminiscent where people know what Heart of Texas Speedway is, strictly based upon the fact that that track sits right prominently next to I-35. Everybody passes by and sees it, goes, oh, hey, look, there's a racetrack right out there outside of Waco. And it's still a staple. Friday night, been on Friday nights for years, continues to find its niche on Friday night, and it looks like it's going to work out really well again for 55th season.
Yeah, and that's I thought it was funny back when they first opened up Texas Motor Speedway, when I would tell people, yeah, I'm going to NASCAR. I'm going to NASCAR in Dallas, and they're like, oh, is that one that's just past Waco? And I'm like, no, not quite, but yeah, that one there. Been around forever, and it's funny you mentioned that, Bobby, because you can go back to the evolution of it. I think the first time I went there was like in 80, 81, something like that, and just how it's evolved. The track stays the same, but now they got the catwalk and all of that there, so it's a pretty legit place right there. A lot of people, when you talk about racing in Texas, one of the first places they think is Heart of Texas, and that's well deserved.
It really is, as far as the way that track, the evolution of it's been great. And you've seen them be, a lot of people thought they were crazy when they stepped away from the NASCAR sanction. As we talked to Paul White on this program before, a couple of national champions have come out of there when they used to do that weekly racing with the NASCAR Sunbelt stuff. But a lot of people thought they were crazy when they dropped that NASCAR sanction, but they picked up with the IMCA sanction right when IMCA started getting hot and heavy in Texas, and they were one of the first signees there. So being able to take IMCA down to a south level here, and so far it's been good. Another staple there for them for another, I guess they've been IMCA for roughly 25 years. So it looks like it's a match still made in heaven for both Hot and there was a couple of rumblings about maybe some USRA sanctions, and Hot shut that down pretty good right with the beginning, saying they've been an IMCA track and will continue to be an IMCA track. So lots of good news and stuff coming out of the pipe there for Heart of Texas.
Yeah, it really comes down to, we talk about tracks evolving and so forth and so on, but I mean, with that place there, I mean, with what they've been able to do, I mean, that's something I think folks don't realize it at times, because I saw that I saw the question going around about 37 and so forth with the unsanctioning there, and I think that's going to work well for them, but when you start flipping sanctions and all of that, I mean, that gets to be a lot. I mean, it gets to be a lot. I mean, there's different fees, there's different little rules there and whatnot. So I think if you hit on something that's working extremely well, I mean, why the hell are you going to go to the well and change that?
I mean, I wouldn't think you'd want to. The track operators have enough to worry about in a pandemic special within 2020 and now 2021. If it's working, what is the old saying? If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it.
Right.
Don't try to reinvent a wheel. There's so many different analogies about when something's working, don't go in and mess it up, and just think about how well that stuff is actually working. And I think that, racing, sometimes promoters can be their own worst enemies, just like sometimes racers can be their own worst enemies too. So sometimes the promoters try to take it to the well one too many times and see what that happens. So
yeah. Speaking of promoters and beat up racetracks, I want to talk quickly before we get to Rusty Marcus here at 7 about the Cars Tour. So you had the Rockingham situation where Rockingham was coming back onto the schedule. That was supposed to be, I believe, on the March the 6th.
March the 6th, yep.
Yeah, and now they've moved that. I mean, as they went back and the tire test was just, I don't want to say it was atrocious, but it was just not what they were looking for. So now they've moved that to October, and Hoosier's going to try to develop a tire. That's a lot of investment right there. I think that's a little odd. Hoosier's going to develop a tire. I guess there must be some sort of future there at Rockingham.
Well, it must be for them to spend the money, the time, the effort to engineer a brand new tire, something that can be used exclusively for Rockingham. Like you said, there's got to be a reasoning why the powers that be and Hoosier working together for Rockingham. I really think that's going to be it's a unique mix. I'm surprised to see it. I'm happy to see it. But then again, there's lots of stuff to see. There's so many going to be insights to the story with so many different insights to that, the ins and outs of that deal, because we don't know what kind of deal Hoosier has worked out completely with cars or anything like that, the Cars Tour. So definitely some ins and outs and trying to get some stuff greater. But it is nice to see that Hoosier is still sticking with Rockingham.
Yeah, and so we'll watch how they're going to do that. I mean, it's the surface is rough. I mean, I know a lot of folks were saying right away, and again, it goes back to the mindset of the whole situation. It's folks are saying if you're going to run races there, you got to repave it. But I mean, not that the Cars Tour. The Cars Tour is not the Cup Series or the Xfinity Series or anything like that. I mean, when you're trying to get up and running off the ground, you've got this group that's trying to open the place back up and get events there. I mean, you can work on the infrastructure and do some stuff, maybe paint, work on the bleachers and do all this other stuff. But hell, to go in there and lay a brand new surface down on a 1.5 mile racetrack, that's not something that you do in a startup.
No, that's not something you do in a startup. The only way you do that in a startup is if you're building the speedway from the ground up. That's the only time you come in and pave a 1.5 mile racetrack right from the beginning. But as far as it's good to see Richmond County trying to get some reinvestment. And I know that with NASCAR not going to Rockingham on a regular basis, it really kind of took the economy of that town down. They still have Rockingham Dragway across the street, but it doesn't pull in near the money that the NASCAR races used to pull in.
Yeah, and we also saw that the fairgrounds, because of course the Nashville Super Speedway, great. Rusty Mark's about to come on, and he lays it down right there. Her surface is her personality, and that's when we talk about Corpus. I mean, that was always the thing with Corpus, where you would go to Corpus, and there were a few guys that would say, "Oh my God, we need to repave this," but so many of them. You talk to the modifieds and the super late models, and those guys were like, "No, leave it alone." And I know when I got out there in a dwarf car, initially, I thought, well, we probably need to repave this, but then I would always joke around because I'd go to a dirt track and they'd say, "How rough is it?" I'm not. It's like it. I would always say, it's not anything compared to CC Speedway. So, I mean, that really is kind of the staple right there. And Austin Speedorama was the same way for a long time until they repaved that one back in '95 or '6 or whatever that was. But so I really do think that is a nice step in the right direction for Rockingham. What I was saying about Bristol, so now Bristol Motor Speedway is in negotiations to possibly piggyback and work with the Nashville Fairgrounds to get mainstream racing back at the fairgrounds in 2022, and I think that is huge for Nashville.
I think it's huge for Nashville. I think that the problem is that they've got this Nashville Super Speedway. Granted, Lebanon, Tennessee, 40 or 50 miles away from the heart of downtown Nashville, right where the fairgrounds is sitting, Fairgrounds Speedway, but there's still a lot of infrastructure they got to bring in there. They got to put softballs in there, despite the fact it's only going to be a mile or it's only going to be a half mile.
Mm-hmm.
You got to add the parking for the haulers and stuff like that. They're going to have to find a way to make that work because definitely they didn't have it that way. They had haulers before in the early 80s, but not like they have the haulers now.
Yeah. Another track that I've heard a lot about, and Jim Pallas checks in. Always a great stories right there. Jackson, Mississippi. Most abrasive track we ran back in the prehistoric times. But, yeah, and that really was, that was back in the days of the McCrary's and all the old big tires that the super late – they're super late models now, but the late models used to run back then. But, I mean, that really does give the track its character. I mean, look at Five Flags. I mean, that's one of the most vaunted and most applauded, short tracks in the country. And, I mean, it looks super smooth on Speed 51. But, I mean, I had no idea till, Bobby, the first time we went there. And, I'd had, maybe 5 or 6 Bud Lights. And I go strolling across the front stretch and almost busted my ass there in the crack. So I didn't know how abrasive that thing really was until you get on top of it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, but same thing. Nobody wants to repave Pensacola. Everybody wants to leave it alone because that's what you found out is that everybody says the drivers show up on a really, really worn out racetrack. That we said that for years. That's why a lot of the good drivers came from CC Speedway because they learned how to drive on that worn out pavement. A brand new paved track is slick and it doesn't make for great racing. We saw that when Thunder Hill Raceway first opened up in 1997. It was way, way too slick and it was way, way too paved. And it was one of those where the new pavement, and we see it in NASCAR. It wasn't a new pavement's not always the best thing when a racetrack gets repaved. That's why they didn't try to want to repave Auto Club Speedway forever. That's why they didn't go in and want to pave Texas forever.
Yeah.
The only reason they went in and did Texas is because all the weepers and stuff. They needed to redo turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, and you see Atlanta. Atlanta's probably one of the bigger ones where, for some of the newer guys are wanting it paved up, because it doesn't race like it does, in the simulator. But you get these veteran drivers, and they're like, do not. Now, abrasive surfaces like that, that really adds to the racing, and I think that in this day of the equipment being so financially driven, and you can buy a lot of speed, where in the old days you had to build it and produce it, and that's just the evolution of the sport. I think these abrasive racetracks is where you go out there and you have to get the setup right, and you can't go burn your tires up, and you can't do all of the things that are going to lose you races, because the surface is the third factor. The surface is the 12th man that factors in there and just makes everything else not quite as relevant as it is at one of the tracks you're talking about, Bobby, the super smooth, wide, brand new track.
Yeah, that's the way that it works. We judge racetracks by the way they drive, and the way that they drive ends up being exactly how the surface is perceived to be by others. And I think the way that it turns out to be at most racetracks is the tougher the surface, the better the racing. Now, sometimes you could say that definitely works in the world of asphalt. Now, in dirt, not so much. The tougher the surface, the better the racing. Obviously, we don't see that a whole lot around here. We see a lot more dry slick with the sheep foot. But in terms of racetracks, you go all over the country. Nobody wants to go in and repave Winchester.
Right.
Winchester probably needs to have a really good fresh set of asphalt put on it. And it's something we could talk to Rusty about, too, when he comes on later about, when does a promoter make the determination on when to repave a racetrack? Is it never? Is it sometimes? Is it every now and then? So I think that's one of the things that you got to ask the promoters in terms of what they want to do. Do the racers like it when it ends up having to be an old surface like that, old worn out surface, or do they like the smoother surfaces of the brand new racetracks?
And I have a feeling he'll probably jump on that right away. When we talk to him, he will be contacting us at 7 o'clock Central. We will talk to Rusty Marcus, New Smyrna Speedway, and then Kevin Rogers coming up at 7:30 from RPM. Huge week, very important week for the. I hate to overbill this, but seriously, for the foreseeable future, mainly 2021 of the Chili Bowl. Because you've got the Tulsa shootout going on over there at the Expo Center, and this is going to be. There's like a Christmas Eve emergency meeting there of the Tulsa officials there, to where they are going to be strictly enforcing that folks are doing what they need to be doing during this Tulsa shootout. And if from some of the stuff that I've read from some of the insiders, if folks are not walking the line there. And I think they're more concerned about the fans. I think the teams are more on point with everything. But if folks aren't doing what they need to be doing, you may not have a Chili Bowl. So I think this is another example where people need to abide, whether you believe in it or not, or you think it's a load of horseshit, whatever it is. I think you need to do what you need to do right now, because this is when push comes to shove right here, because this sounds like a pretty serious test run that we have going on in Oklahoma this week.
Yeah, I think it is more than likely going to be the test run in terms of how this whole thing shakes out. I wanted to, I think that the race teams have become so used to having to wear the mask and everything else with the way that stuff is working that it ends up being second nature for them. But now when you think about the way that, the fans are reacting, a lot of times the fans don't care anymore. You see that a lot of places where, unfortunately, we saw down in Pensacola where that was the case down there. A lot of people just didn't care anymore, and the way that it ended up showcasing with that race down in Pensacola, and it's the same way with the Chili Bowl. I think the teams are so accustomed to doing it now that it won't make that big of a deal, especially for them. But when it comes to no Chili Bowl, imagine how everybody's going to be upset about that.
Yeah.
If that kicks off the 2021 season and that gets canceled, it's like they said, man. Think about it. Is 2020 just a bad year? Is it the start of a really shitty decade?
Yeah, and that's really the thing. Because it's not going away. It's not going away. whether it's, I mean, I don't know. We won't get into that, but I mean, it's not going to mysteriously disappear on January the 2nd. I mean, we're still going to have to deal with it. So they'll have to wear masks at all times except when the competitors put on a helmet. Employees, participants, attendants, or attendees, they will be testing for body temperature. 100.4 is going to be that number there. They can get a second test with a second thermometer. If the second test fails, they're going to not let you in there. 6,900 will be the capacity. That's what they're limited to for 36 square feet per person inside the complex, 25%. So, and again, if you're going to be making your way out there, just abide by it, because I've seen it at like you mentioned there with Pensacola, and not to pick on them, but it's not anything. But the racetrack. Every racetrack that I've been to, they're doing their due diligence. They're doing their due diligence because the signs are there, hand sanitizer's there. I mean, everything is there. It's us. And I say us because I've probably left my mask off a few times in Pensacola. We're the ones that really need to walk that line.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to come through and end up telling everybody, oh, you got to do this, got to do that. And we, as you said, we could have been slightly more diligent in Pensacola by wearing the mask, but hell, nobody else was either. So it gets kind of hard to try to do the one thing that nobody else is doing.
Yeah. So it's going to be pivotal, and this is I think the big deal about this, because seriously, this is, by the time you have the Tulsa shootout. If you got the Tulsa shootout going on, and you have then you got the Chili Bowl that's coming out, that's 2 weeks. That's 2.5 weeks of indoor, and that's the difference here. The indoor is the key, because the outdoor you give a little bit of benefit of the doubt because you are out in the elements and you're outside and so forth and so on. But this is inside. This is inside. I mean, we're watching with NFL. I mean, the NFL teams. I mean, they're restricting. Jerry World yesterday, I think they said they were capping it at 30,000. Which that's still a lot of people, but in that place, I mean, that's not a lot of people in that place.
No, it's not. I mean, you think about it, the magic number we've seen for a lot of these venues has been 25 to 30,000. That's how many people they allowed in for the World Series. That's how many people they allowed in for the rodeo, even though the rodeo stuff was a little different when they come through and have that done. But I mean, Bristol was 30,000. Texas was supposed to be capped at 25 or 30,000. Talladega, I think, was 20.
Yeah.
So I think you've seen that magic number anywhere from 20 to 30,000 people, and I think, well, the way things were shaking out, that's what we looked at participating in there in 2021. Granted, it depends on who you talk to, what news source you look at, depends on whether or not we're even going to be able to turn the next page without another lockdown or shutdown. But that's a whole other discussion for another show. But you got to have fans in these events to make the events viable. These events don't have the TV money that the big NASCAR stuff does, so they got to have a little bit of fans to help offset some of that stuff. You can't tell me the TV rights for MAV TV is going to cover the missing fans and all that stuff for the Chili Bowl. But it's time to put up or shut up. If you want, the Tulsa Shootout's always been the preliminary action for the Chili Bowl. So now it's time to see what's going to happen with the Tulsa Shootout. I hope everybody pays attention and does a good job.
Yeah, believe in it or not. I mean, that's really what they're asking you to do. I mean, it goes back to the seatbelt thing. I mean, I thought that the seatbelt rule was a little crazy, and then my dad and I had a car accident when I was a kid. And before we were going on that little ride there, I didn't want to put seatbelt on. He made me put seatbelt on. We had a wreck on the way to the destination. So I became a believer in seatbelts. So no matter what you think, I mean, just do what you do, because that really is what everything is hingent on at this point. On the Facebook page, John Witchy, if you drink more moonshine, you'll be all right. There is that. There's always
there was a lot of that in Pensacola.
Yeah, there's always that. There's that good old what do they call it? There's that shot right there that they're talking about. That'll get you going each and every time. But yeah, so we'll see how that shakes out. So that news is going to continue to roll in throughout the week as all of that really begins to take shape down there in Tulsa as they get that going. So don't forget, again, Texana, that schedule release coming up. Owen had actually contacted me over the weekend. I said, let's do it Monday, buddy. I mean, he's got it. He's got the dates, but he said, I'm going to Vegas. He said, I may be in an alcohol-induced state on Monday evening. I don't know if I need to be releasing that on that program on Monday night.
Well, at least he was honest, right? Yeah. You got to love Owen and his honesty in terms of having that. But, 1 week's not going to make a big difference for that track down there. It just puts people more and more in excitement about it. Just like the same thing with unveiling the H&P schedule. Everybody's trying to figure out what it's going to be. Don't worry, in due time, that schedule will be out. Everybody will know, and everybody will be better when the schedules come out. So
Yeah.
it looks like those are the last two major ones to come out.
Yep, plan to race 8 dates. If you didn't catch that over on the Short Track Racing Series page, plan to race 8 dates. All of that stays the same. Lots of other irons in the fire there that could pan out. And yes, indeed, we did say the other day that we are working there to get a super late model, pro late model race. I'll be real transparent with you. I mean, the date was already offered, but with some of the challenges that we were talking about with the drag racing facility, I mean, there's a drag racing event that weekend there that really took away from the super late model race. So that sucked. That really sucked. But working to get that hammered out, and it truly is the goal to get you pro and super late models and the modifieds of Mayhem back in Houston. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's going to happen. It's just a matter of getting it all put together.
Well, hopefully it'll all come together and happen in 2021 instead of having to wait to 2022. But who knows what happens? There's still lots of moving parts and pieces. These racing schedules and everything, they're like clocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every gear, there's so many gears that have to get moved and all in the same direction for this stuff to complete the circle of life. That's something a lot of people don't forget. They think it's just as easy as when they flip onto the social media there and see a post on Facebook with a bunch of racing dates. A lot of people, unless you've had to make a schedule, you don't really know how hard it is to actually get all the pieces lined up to make your racing schedule.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. There is a lot to it, and but it's all coming together. And friends, don't forget, Asphalt friends, don't forget, Speed Fest back at Chris Motorsports Park in Cordell. That's January 22nd and 23rd. Super Pro Late Model doubleheader. Super Late Models, 200 laps, $10,000 to win. The Pro Late Models, 125 laps, $5,000 to win. Man, January. That's just January, man. That's a pretty good thing, I think. I'm digging that. Yeah,
5 weeks out to the Chris Motorsport Park race going to be with Speed Fest. So never dull and boring moment here when every racing starts rocking and rolling.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Like clockwork, it is time to go to the Revved Up Sports Show hotline. We've got a locked and loaded Monday evening program for you, and I'm going to try to do this in my best Rusty Marcus voice as I can. This is how he answers the phone over there when you call. It is the historic New Smyrna Speedway in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Rusty Marcus. Rusty, how you doing, brother?
Doing great. How about you guys?
Man, we're awesome. Boy, you're staying busy down there, aren't you? I've watched videos all day. You guys never stop.
Let me tell you something. We've got an event going on down here right now, and it's the New Smyrna Quarter Midget Racing Association, and they have done a fantastic job putting the show together. They've got over 200 carts here.
Wow, that is awesome.
It's crazy. I mean, our infield is jammed.
Man, that's great. I love it.
And right now, I'm watching the last race of the day. And they're going to start again tomorrow morning. This is the little 500 for the Quarter Midget Racing Association. There's carts here from all over the place. It is a wonderful thing. Really super stoked that it's here. And if this is any indication of what 2021 is going to be like for racing, we're in good shape, folks.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, Rusty, how important is it to get the kids involved that early? Obviously, you got to have a lifeline coming into the racetrack. Did the Quarter Midgets come to you, or did you go to the Quarter Midgets and say, "Hey, we need a big show"? How does something of that magnitude with those cars start to make shape?
This has been years in the making. Many years ago, Mark Martin got together with Robert Hart and Randy Dye. Randy Dye has Daytona Dodge here in Volusia County, and Mark Martin wanted to put a quarter midget track in. And Robert Hart said, you know what? I like the idea. So he kind of deeded a little piece of property over here in turns 1 and 2 to him to build a quarter midget track. Wow. And it is really growing in leaps and bounds. It's if you could be here tonight, it's pretty much a full moon. The weather is perfect. And the attitudes of everybody is great. And they just keep building this event up. We've actually got 3 racetracks at New Smyrna Speedway. We've got the quarter midget track, we've got a dirt go-kart track, and of course the big old girl, the half mile.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rusty, let's talk about 2021, and I want to get your thoughts on rough surfaces and so forth because I saw you comment there. Talk about 2020 before we jump moving forward, man. What a year! Your challenges there. How hard has it been for you to operate that joint with all this stuff that's been going on?
Let me tell you something. When we opened up last January, we had made a few changes here, and the place opened up like gangbusters. The World Series of Asphalt last year was probably one of the biggest we've had in 15 years. It was all smiles. The attitude. I mean, it was one of the greatest shows you could ever attend. Then when it came time for racing season, just as we got ready to open the gates, we hit a brick wall. And of course, nobody knows what's going on with this stuff. You know, I think about this often. Do you remember how afraid you were to go anywhere when this first started?
Oh yeah. Yep.
And you know, it was like you just waited for a brick to fall out of the sky and hit you in the head. Now, what I'll tell you is, here's what my belief is. Yes, this thing is real. People need to be responsible for themselves. Don't make everybody else take care of you. Now the facilities and you were at Five Flags.
Yep.
Five Flags did a phenomenal job of trying their best to keep everybody safe. They had the sensors whenever you walked in. They had the sanitation stations. I watched. They had people going around wiping down bathroom doors, wiping down railings, doing different things to try and keep everybody safe. There's only so much you can do.
Right.
They had the hand sanitizer station set up all over the place. It was, as you know, because you were there, it was a tremendous show. I mean, the Bryant family, I think the world of them, and I think they're probably the top in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rusty, the one thing I noticed about New Smyrna, especially when you first took over there, was anytime you needed something, you put a post out there on social media that said, hey, I need help with some concrete work. Anybody know any concrete connections? Hey, I need help with a little bit of paving. I need help with a sign and stuff like that. How cool is it to know that when you first get involved in a racetrack, when you ask for help, that people are willing to stop and help you? Because it seems like that's sometimes forgotten in some of the modern day racing stuff.
Well, and that's true. And, you know, we talk about it a lot. Back when Clyde Hart, who was the founder of this racetrack, back in the day on Sundays, he would tell people, hey, come out, we're having a work day, and he'd buy a keg of beer and hamburgers, and people would come out and do whatever.
Yeah.
Times have changed. And I'm not saying that if we did that, people would still come. But times have changed. It's a different world. It's like the racetrack surfaces you were talking about. You know, used to, you went to a racetrack, and whatever it was, and you ran with it. Now that everybody wants things to be a certain way, it has to be, but we want. And the Rockingham deal, I was a little bit involved with that during the first sale of it. I wasn't really involved, but I knew the players and whatnot. And one of the first, there was a lot of rumors that I was going to go to work there and all this stuff. And I got phone calls from people saying, "Oh, you need to update the place. You need to update the place." There's when I did go up there for an interview with Andy Hillenberg.
Mm-hmm.
And when you went there, it was like a time capsule. There was still the Winston signs up. There was it was great.
Yep. But
people have gotten so used to this white glove stuff that they don't know how to deal with stock car racing. And
Yep.
Stock car racing isn't necessarily pretty at times. You're not going to have the best of the best. These racetracks, all of them, struggle to keep alive. And they can't afford to spend, you need to resurface the track. Well, that's $500,000 to $1 million to do, especially a track like New Smyrna. And this was done about 20 years ago. Well, people are saying, well, it needs to be resurfaced now. No, it doesn't. She is what she is. The surface is fine. Do we have some weepers in her? Yeah. But you can't afford to keep everything up to absolute brand new status because there's not the money to do it. And people don't want to understand that. And, people, one of their biggest complaints is, payouts are so low. Well, yeah, because what they don't see about a racetrack is, if you just go look at a racetrack and you go, hey, yeah, it must be nice. They open the gates on Saturday, everybody comes in, and they can close for the rest of the week. It's not that way. There's a lot of upkeep. There's a lot of expense. There's a lot of insurance. There's so much to a racetrack that people, especially some of the racers, now a lot of the racers get it, some of them don't, and they're like, you need to pay more. Well, if we pay more, you won't have a place to race.
Right. And I think so much of it now, Rusty, is how racing has changed. I mean, you, Bobby, and I have been doing this for so damn long. We've watched so many different trends, the way the sport has changed. Obviously, when folks come to me, like with Houston, they're like, you need to advertise more. I'm like, well, that shit costs money. It costs a lot of money. And they're like, you need to do this and all this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, well, if that happens, we're going to have to raise your fees. And, we can pay you more, but we're going to raise your fees. And all of that factors in that they just don't get the backdoor stuff.
Right. And here's the thing. I love Houston Motorsports Park. I loved the track down in Kyle. I love Texas Motor Speedway, Little Texas. NASCAR, the NASCAR track, they can, the Smith family obviously can afford to do a few things.
Yeah.
But whenever you're talking about the mom and pops, I mean, I dealt with Graham Baker a lot when I was in Monroe and when I was in Texas. And I think the world of him. And, he wanted that oval track. He loved that oval track. And I dealt with him. I started dealing with him when I was in Florida over Pro Challenge cars. Mm-hmm. When I was in Florida before. And he had some Pro Challenge cars. We talked about those. And then, when I got to Monroe, he'd help us out. We'd help him out however we could. And so there's always been a good relationship with Houston Motorsports Park. And, if racetracks were making all the money in the world, nobody would close.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
We had a racetrack in Florida that boasted how many cars they got every week and, how many fans they got every week. And you do the math on the numbers that they give you, and they're making a lot of money. Well, a couple of years later, guess what they're doing? Mm-hmm. We're going to every other week.
Yeah.
Well, if you're making that much money, you're not going to go to every other week.
Nope. Absolutely.
You're going to see if you can run 2 shows a week.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
But stock car racing, it's so different, and there's so many divisions, and it's like here at the quarter midget deal. A guy brought a quarter scale Outlaw Modified that he has designed himself. It's a beautiful piece.
Is that orange one? Is that orange car?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is a beauty.
That thing is gorgeous.
Oh my God.
Now get this. This is the feedback we get on that. Tell Rusty he needs to stop pushing that kind of shit and get more supers at the racetrack.
I know, man. Every time. I know.
I got news for you. There's more than supers in this world. And here's something else. As you know, I was with U.S. Electric Cars for 6 years at Texas Motor Speedway. Yep. I've dealt with them for over 20 years at Orlando and Monroe and whatnot. That program, people don't like the Bandolero car. Mm-hmm. Oh, the Bandolero, they're slow. It's the kids. Let me tell you something. If you've got a short track that's under, we can't use them at New Smyrna because he's a half mile.
Yeah. But
if you've got a short track, 3/8 mile or less, you absolutely, positively need that Bandolero. And there's reasons for it. It's part of the food chain. Mm-hmm. We get these kids started like here at New Smyrna, they get started in the quarter midget. When we had Orlando, then they would move to the Bando at Orlando because it was a 3/8. Mm-hmm. Then they would move to a Legend at Orlando because it was a 3/8. Then they would buy a Sportsman or a late model or a super late. It's part of the food chain, and you can't get people to understand that. You absolutely have to have these cars because that's what builds your future.
Right.
And, they got rid of Orlando, and it's just sitting there. Which we're going to try and get some stuff going on with it in 2021. But what a great track Orlando is. If you've never been there, she is a racy little girl now.
Yeah.
And we did the Winter Nationals with the Legends there for years and years and years. What a great racetrack. You could take a car to Orlando, a mediocre car, and win. You bring that same car to New Smyrna Speedway, and this old girl will eat that car up. People don't understand, and they don't believe me when I say people are afraid of New Smyrna Speedway.
I bet.
And like right now, I'm sitting up on the top of turn 2 because I was watching the quarter midgets race, and you look down that straightaway, and I'm looking down to turn 3 right now. That thing is forever down there because New Smyrna is a paper clip.
No.
It's 2 drag strips and a quick turn. And if you wreck a car here, that car is junk.
Yeah.
If you don't have your car tuned just right, if you don't have the setup just right, your car is junk. And it's a very, very hard track to conquer. Do I wish it was Orlando? Man, if it was Orlando, we'd be knocking them out of the trees down here. But this track is very, very hard to get people to come to. And people look for excuses not to come to her because she is a brutal old track.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
This thing is fast, really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks it. It looks it.
And see, like you were at Five Flags.
Mm-hmm.
Five Flags has more of a round shape to it. Mm-hmm. New Smyrna is not round. Yeah. She's a paperclip.
Yeah. Well, San Antonio for so many years here. There were folks, myself included. The first couple of times, Rusty, that I went to race there, I'm going down the front stretch, and I'm like, shit. When do I let off? When do I hit the brake here? And you don't do that there. You just didn't do that. And it was nothing but speed, fast,
right?
And you hit the fence, and you're done. You're done.
Right. Absolutely. And we were trying to pull a deal off here, like I did at Monroe, where we were going to bring the dirt late models here.
Wow.
And everything was a go. They were excited until they thought about it, and then they said, "Oh hell no!"
That's awesome.
Because it is, now Volusia's just right down the street,
right? And
it's a half-mile dirt track, but it's configured different, and they're used to that.
Yeah.
And this track, being the hairpin or the paperclip that it is, you mess up, and you're rebuilding.
Yeah, no doubt.
But come February, and I hope you get to see this. You better still be planning on seeing it.
Yeah. I'm all over it, dude. I'm all over it. Yep.
It's the 55th annual World Series of Asphalt, and it's going to be huge. But before that, we got the Red Eye this weekend, which is going to be exciting. Whenever I came back to Florida, it was the Red Eye 100, and it was a 100-lap super late model race. And it never did do really, really good. Mm-hmm. And we changed it up a little bit. We said, let's make it the Red Eye 50-50. And we made it 50 laps of super, 50 laps of pros.
Yeah.
What a difference. Plus, we run the other divisions, too.
Yeah.
What a difference it made.
Yeah.
So we're keeping that format. We like that format. It works for us. It works well for us.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because 2020 was such a crap show, we decided to do something the next weekend. And we're calling it the No More 2020 Enduro and Demolition Derby.
Nice.
And it's going to be 100 laps for the 4 cylinders that come out here. We pay $2,500 to win for the Enduro, $2,500 to win for the Demolition Derby, and it's just a night of fun. We have fan races. We have all kinds of fun stuff.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Rusty, how do you come up with these ideas? Do you do like Rodney and I do? You just start drinking and start writing them down, or is this stuff is more complicated than that? Now you got a goodbye to 2020 Enduro with 4 cylinders and a huge Demolition Derby right after you get the Red Eye. How do these ideas come to you, man?
Now the Red Eye has been in existence for many, many years, and it's always been held the weekend of New Year's. And it was because, hey, everybody's got red eyes coming into this thing, so let's call it the Red Eye.
Hell yeah. I love it. That's good. Hey, Rusty, talk about, I know we were talking about supers there. There are other things other than the supers, but, man, I love how you guys went. They are the David Rogers super late models. That's pretty kick-ass.
Well, and wow, when you say that, it makes me it's something else, because David Rogers, if you didn't know David Rogers, he was the biggest gentleman you could ever meet. He was a rock here at New Smyrna Speedway. He was, when the founder passed away, Clyde, and Robert took over the racetrack. Robert is Clyde's son. He would lean on David for guidance with this racetrack, because David Rogers would tell you the truth, whether it meant him going to the rear of the field or being DQ'd for the year. He would shoot you straight. And if we had a problem here, the first thing we'd say is, "Hey, let's call David." And I can't tell you how exciting it was last year at the Governor's Cup, when David got back in the TM Ranch number 11 and took some practice laps. And he really wanted to get into the Governor's Cup, but he was afraid he couldn't make the laps.
Right.
Now, Bubba was driving his car for the Governor's Cup, and he was turning faster times than Bubba in his car.
Wow.
And then he came, he was feeling better, and he came and he played at the World Series, and we didn't know it, and he didn't expose it to us, but he was starting to go down.
Yeah.
And about midway through, the car got wrecked again, and he said, "The car's evil. I'm done." And but what we didn't know was that his health was declining on him.
Right.
And it was, it was so good to see the TM Ranch number 11. That guy, we people said, "Are you going to make a memorial race for him?" And the problem with memorial races is they lose their luster.
Right.
And then 5 years from now, people go, "Well, who was that?" I didn't want something that we had to re-educate people on. Yeah. I wanted to keep David relevant forever here at New Smyrna Speedway. So we decided to make the super late models the David Rogers Super Late Model Series, so that every time a super late model touches this track, his name is brought up. He stays relevant here at New Smyrna Speedway.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
So, Rusty, when you look at the racing as it is as a whole, is it the same problems everywhere? Do you face the same problems in Florida that you faced when you were in Texas and Louisiana? I mean, is it all the same stuff that just depends on the location and the outlet that you're racing at?
Absolutely. I mean, racing is racing is racing is racing. If you're dealing with kids, it's the parents that are the problem.
Yeah.
Ain't no lie there.
Yeah, that's for damn sure right there.
And here's the biggest problem with racing is, whether it's a Bandolero or a super late model, everybody wants it faster. And you set up rules, and it doesn't matter what division it is. It can be a fun division, and it starts off as a $500 car and have $1,000 worth of fun, and all of a sudden they want to put another $1,000 in the car for the same trophy that they were running for before.
Right.
And then they get mad because the purse isn't going up. Well, now that $500 car is a $1,500 car, and then 6 months later somebody wants to add something else to it. Now it's a $2,000 car, and then somebody wants to add this to it, and next thing you know, super late. The price that super lates are now is so crazy. Yeah. And we've done it to ourselves, because people get together and they go, "Oh, let's do this. And racetracks trying to create an island and get a car that only can run at their racetrack. No, I'm a firm believer in, like the Legend and Bandolero program. The reason you can get so many of those things everywhere whenever you run a big show is because the cars are the same.
Right.
Now, do they cheat them? Of course they do. But
sure,
the cars are the same.
No, they don't do that.
I remember at Monroe, we were trying to slow the bandoleros down, and we would do something to slow them down. Within 2 weeks, the dads would have them faster than they were when we slowed them down.
yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the way it goes. So Rusty, for you, I mean, like I said, I mean, you've talked about the different places you've been. For you being at this girl at New Smyrna, I mean, when you talk about tracks, I mean that is one of the ones when it comes to nostalgic racetracks and however you want to spin it. I can't think of all the adjectives or whatever to use, but to have landed there. I mean, the home of the World Series and the Red Eye, and just such a tradition and everything that is in New Smyrna. How cool is this for you to be living this life right now?
You know, it's really neat. And what's funny is, growing up as a kid, never thought I'd be doing this. You know, I thought I'd be doing like a regular job where you make money and stuff.
Yeah. I've heard of those.
Yeah. And you know, I started off at a little dirt track down in Okeechobee, Florida, called Thunder Trot. And I started off as the 50-50 ticket salesperson, because the girls didn't show up one night to sell 50-50, and they said, "Hey, can you sell 50-50 tickets for us?" That turned into a whole weird thing. And then somebody asked me to come up and help announce at Orlando. And I started going to Orlando Speed World, which was owned by the same company same people, the same family that owns New Smyrna Speedway.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm at Orlando. And I was there for many years, and I was offered the position at Monroe, and I felt like I had taken Orlando as far as it could go.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I need to because everybody's going to tell you you're doing stuff wrong.
Right.
And it's like, you know what? Maybe they're right. I need to hand this over to somebody else and let them take it further.
Sure.
And so I went to Monroe, and Monroe was what Monroe was. Loved the little track. Loved the people of Monroe. And then whenever it got auctioned, U.S. Legend Cars called me and asked me if I wanted to go to Texas. And I was like, well, I'd be stupid not to do this.
Yeah, no shit on that.
And, you know, Kent Nelson at Texas Motor Speedway and Eddie Gossage, they're great people. I had a lot of fun at Texas. There was that little track over there. I'd never been to Texas whenever I took the job, and whenever I drove out there to live there, first thing I did was go to the racetrack, and I was like, okay, where's this track at? And I went and I looked at it and I go, what the hell do you do with this little thing? But I soon learned that little track at Texas Motor Speedway, she is a wicked little bitch.
Yeah, no doubt.
And, you know, here's the thing about racing, and you guys both know this. The racing people, I mean, Texas, you know, of course, one of the things you think about in Texas is Gowdy and Menard and you meet so many great people. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm so happy with what Gina's doing with Houston Motorsports Park. I talk to her occasionally. If you can keep a racetrack alive, God bless you. Let's roll.
Yeah, right. I mean, you guys. I mean, when we talk about, I talk about high school coaches a lot, and I'm like, these people are saints. You guys that operate racetracks, you guys are saints, because it's a lot of bullshit, and you rarely do anything right. We know this. We know you never do anything right, but I mean, you just keep coming back for more. It's a special person, my man.
You know what though? Whenever things do work right, that's whenever you know that things are good.
Yeah. No doubt about it, and you do a great job there. So again,
you know what? Running a racetrack is like wetting your pants in a dark suit. You get the warm feeling, but nobody notices.
That could be the best observation that we've ever had on this program. That right there hits the nail on the head right there. So, Rusty,
but I tell you.
Uh-huh.
I tell you this, like right now I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the little quarter midget track.
Yeah.
And there's kids out there playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the most rewarding thing that you can do in racing. It's not for the money. If you work at a racetrack, you ain't making jack crap. It's through the years, as I've watched these Bandolero drivers, and the first time you see them on the racetrack, it's like, oh my God, I could outwalk the car. And then you see them start making their way up and up and up and up. That's what's so rewarding.
Yeah, it really is. And
you start seeing them have kids of their own.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing. That's a crazy thing.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, man, I used to race against this kid's dad, or grandfather, even at times. It's like, damn, I realize how old I am. But so the Red Eye's coming up again. Recap it all, Rusty. Everything that's coming up,
and then Saturday night under the light system.
That's right.
Beautiful New Smyrna Speedway.
There it is.
And then January 9th, it'll be the No More 2020, and we waited a week after New Year's in case there was a Mayan calendar or something that had 2020 still going on for a week or so, because we want to make sure we're done with it. Yeah. And if you get a chance, and I didn't even realize this until a couple days ago, take a look at the logo for the No More 2020. See what you come up with. And then, of course, starting in February, it's the 55th annual World Series of Asphalt, where we're going to have a little bit of everything racing, 9 straight nights of racing. If you come to Florida in February, make sure you come here. Daytona International Speedway is just like 15 minutes away from here. The who's who of racing will be at New Smyrna Speedway for those 9 nights.
Yeah, what a show. The world-renowned World Series racing, and they call it the World Series for a reason. And, man, great job of leading that amazing racetrack. And, I mean, I love checking in with you and the things that you do there, man. I love the energy, and you just keep coming back for more, and that's what we do. And it's very much appreciated.
And here's the thing. I like it when people come here for the first time, and it's going to be great in February when you get here, so that you can see this thing and see what it actually is and what happens here, and what it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And when you see the pits full, when you see the outer pits full, when you see the cars parked all out in the front, and we're trying to slam cars in the parking lot. And I will say this, we're opening up, thank goodness we've got Ron DeSantis as our governor of Florida.
Yeah.
He is busting his butt trying to keep Florida open. They've put right now, as it stands right now, they've put no restrictions on us other than do your best, try and follow the CDC guidelines. We put precautions into place. We're going at it 100%. If things change between now and then,
sure.
We didn't think what would happen at the beginning of this year would happen.
Right.
But it did. But right now we're going at it. We want everybody to come have a great time, enjoy Florida, enjoy Volusia County, and enjoy New Smyrna Speedway, because there's only one thing that New Smyrna Speedway or any other racetrack in this world does. And I say this in pretty much any interview I do. Yeah. The only thing we do here is make memories.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What a place. What a place. It's going to be awesome. Rusty, have a great week, man. We'll be checking in. We'll check in on the Red Eye, and we'll see you soon, brother.
Come see us and have an absolutely great, safe New Year.
Absolutely. Be good, my man. We'll talk soon.
Hey, thank you.
You bet. Take care.
We'll see you soon.
You bet. Rusty Marcus. Guy has a little energy, doesn't he?
Just a little bit of energy there with Rusty, but he's a hell of a good guy. He's done a lot for racing that he won't take credit for in terms of trying to make things a lot better for different things that he's been involved in. But Rusty's one of a kind, that's for damn sure.
And the thing with him, I mean, it's so odd because that guy, I mean, you look at it, he's been everywhere. I mean, the guy, he's been just like a globetrotter. I mean, he jumps around and he stays with the sport. And I'll tell you what, I mean, to end up there at New Smyrna, and that was the reason to ask him that. I mean, I didn't want to say, is this a culmination? I mean, because the guy's going to be doing this forever, I think. But, I mean, to land there, Bobby, that's got to be some cool stuff.
Well, I mean, it's where, he has his heart. His heart is at every racetrack that he worked at. Like, he talked about spending all the time with the Legends cars, and he did all that stuff there. But you can tell in his voice there's somewhere special and something just incredibly special about New Smyrna. That he has his heart and soul into New Smyrna, and I totally agree with the way that was happening. And it was one of those where Rusty just came through, and he's just shown by it. I mean, good God, he's got to say goodbye to 2020 Bomber Enduro race with 4-cylinders coming up at a Demolition Derby. So he's definitely been able to come through and make that track, put his own stamp on it, where he's been able to come through and put his stamp on it and have it Rusty Marcus approved in terms of all the stuff that he's been needing to do at New Smyrna Raceway. So I think he's the right guy at the right time for the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's enjoying what he's doing. And that's, like he said, I mean, there's challenges. And I think the thing with Rusty that makes it so cool is Rusty kind of spins it his own little way. Spins it his own little way and just kind of tells it like it is. Great interview right there with Rusty Marcus. Speaking of great guys operating great tracks, we've got another one right now on the hotline. Talk New Smyrna Speedway, that was pavement. Now let's talk a little bit of dirt. And not only just dirt track operator, I mean, KR Promotions LLC. We are going to talk to the great Kevin Rogers. Kevin, how you doing, my man?
Doing good, buddy. How are you?
Oh, man, we're doing extremely well, man. Holidays good? You ready to get 2020 done? Or do you want to go 2020 a little bit longer?
No, I'm good with 2020 in the rear view. I'll be honest with you. Holidays are great, always great, but I'm excited about 2021 and getting behind this. 2020 was a struggle.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
So, Kevin, before we get into all the cool stuff coming up in 2021 at RPM, let's talk about your background. Rodney alluded to it. You got all different kind of ventures in racing with promotions and fuel and racetracks and all different kind of stuff. But let's talk about you. How did you get involved in racing and you got to where you are right now?
Man, I tell you, my dad started taking me when I was about 5, so we've been doing this over 35 years now. And I think sometimes I want to thank him and sometimes I want to headbutt him. I don't know what to do sometimes. But no, we just fell in love with it, you know, and I grew up in a good home, good parents, and I never was a kid to get in a lot of trouble, but I think racing kind of saved me from getting in any trouble just because I was always my dad. You know, we got to spend so much time, so I always cherish those memories. And just as we got a little older, had opportunities to branch out and start doing some stuff. We raced a little bit. By the way, I'll preface that we're the worst probably driver ever to sit in a dirt car, but we enjoy it as much as anybody. But so we got into that. We bought the Sprint Series of Texas in 2015, run that for a year, and just some things didn't. Like, it was a great group of guys, racers, but it just I wasn't ready for the traveling series thing yet, and I was fortunate enough to have some people that kind of coached me along the way and learning. So we did that, but that same year, Kevin Cestera, my partner on RPM, his crew guy, Brian Mize, passed away kind of quick and unexpectedly, and we had about 25 days to put on a memorial race for him, and we did the inaugural one at Grayson County Speedway that year and had a great turnout, and we were just looking at trying to figure out a way to raise little funds to kind of take care of his young kids and kind of honor his memory, and it just kind of kept steamrolling from there, and so we had a chance. We always wanted to, once we got that first one, we thought, man, it would be kind of cool if we could get our own venue someday. And it just worked out where we could get to RPM Speedway and just blessed with a lot of good people in our corner. But, you know, we do the promotions deal. That's kind of the parent company for a lot of what I do. And we started that in 2015 as well. But we do all kinds of social media stuff. We do speaking engagements, different things like that. But the biggest thing I got coming up with that here in the relative future is January 22nd, 23rd at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. Toby Cruz and I are putting on the Great American Racing Show, and then he'll have his 13th annual battle at the barn, some of the best Coke syrup racing in the country. So if you guys are bored, come on up to Des Moines, Iowa that weekend. Ought to be a good show.
And talk a little bit about that. I wanted to ask you about that, KR, the Great American Racing Show. So what all goes on with that? I mean, I was watching some of your videos there, and I love your videos, by the way. We had a guy on before you, Rusty Marcus, and you guys both. It's like, boom. That's the energy that you need to get people fired up right there. So what all happens at the Great American Racing Show?
Well, this will be the first annual, the inaugural,
okay.
if you will.
Okay.
So Toby's been doing the battles at barn for years, and I've known Toby forever and got a great amount of respect for him and what he's accomplished in motorsports, and kind of started patterning myself a little bit after, kind of wanting to follow in his footsteps, if you will, because he's got a pretty good track record in the sport. And we talked about this a couple of years ago, and things just, the timing wasn't right. And then about 6 months ago, we were talking about something, and he said, KR, maybe this is the year we try it. And I said, well, we're never going to know until we do. So we got some great vendors lined up. Obviously, you know, PRI and all that, it didn't happen, and this won't ever be a PRI event by any means. But we want to have a good regional show up there, and got a lot of great national vendors coming into town for it. So it's going to be good. It's going to be, hopefully a very slim margin kind of a slimmed down version, if you will, of PRI. But opportunity to see a lot of the new stuff because a lot of these vendors haven't had that opportunity this year with the way 2020 shaked out. So hopefully everything's still a go up there. Last I heard, we're still good in the state of Iowa. So with all the COVID stuff, it's just you take it day to day. If you plan like you're going to have it, but you just don't always know. But we feel pretty confident we're going to be able to get these events in. And then, like say, his battle at the barn, I went to it a few years ago, and they run in 15, 20-lap features in 2.5 minutes. It's unreal. So it's a lot of fun.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, KR, one of the things we were talking to Rusty about is that, and he mentioned it to us, and we've known this from talking to different promoters and being on the backside of it all. Everybody seems to think that the easiest job in the world is a promoter because all you do is you show up at the racetrack and you flip the lights on and here comes every car that you can think of and you're making money out the wazoo. And I don't know why that's the general perception from sometimes race fans and drivers. Why is there such a disconnect where the drivers sometimes don't understand that it's not as easy as just coming in and flipping the switch and having everything work like it's supposed to?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I will kind of put this back on some of us promoters. Across the country, there's a lot of great promoters, but there's also just some track operators. There are some places that I've been to where it looks like they do just open the gate at 4 o'clock, and then people start showing up. So some of that's on us. But, I think the biggest disconnect, honestly, is most guys that are racing, it's a hobby. And when you have a racetrack, it's a business. It's no different than what people do on their weekly jobs and stuff. But I think for the most part, it's just learning your market, learning your customer base, learning what you need to do better. I like to walk the pits and talk to a lot of our racers pre-race because, a lot of those guys and gals, and you learn a lot from the wives, some different ideas like, hey, why don't you hang a mirror in this side of the women's restroom? And this, and you listen to that, you make some small improvements, and it's amazing. We have a very good family atmosphere. We have a lot of husbands, wives show up with their kids and race with us, and some of that stuff I take great pride in. But no, it's just a tough business, and it's hard to understand until you do it. It's like that. What do they call that? That armchair quarterback. It's easy to make that pass on 3rd and 7. Sitting in the recliner, sipping on your beverage on a Sunday afternoon. But it ain't always easy when you got these, 2,000 pounds of linebackers running at you on the field, So, but it's okay. It's all right. We make it work, and you just got to work with your customer. Customer service is where it's at. If you can work the customer service angle and do your very best to take care of your customer base, whether it's racetrack or anything, you're going to be successful, and we try to do that to the best of our ability, and we don't always get it right, but you learn. That's one thing that's good about racing. You race this Friday, you come back next Friday, you can correct some of your mistakes and try to improve on it, and it gives you an opportunity. So in that aspect, the promoter and the racer are very similar. They're always changing bars, air pressure, different things to get a little bit more speed. We're doing the same thing. We're trying to figure out where to position trash cans better. How do we need to put the hand sanitizer in the restrooms? Just little things like that. But to me, that's the fun part of it. Is there's always a challenge. It's never an easy night, and I think when it becomes an easy night, you probably need to move on down the road and turn the keys over to somebody else.
Yeah. Great point right there. RPMdirt.com is the website there for RPM Speedway. Kevin, let me ask you. So now we were talking about earlier about sanctioning and so forth. So now you've had IMCA that kind of the staple there for so long, and USRA is doing a tremendous job as well. How hard does it get? I mean, because I think maybe some racers, maybe some like USRA. I mean, some guys are dead set on IMCA. How tough does that get for you guys to balance that out and make it to where, I mean, it's impossible to make everybody happy, but to try to find that balance there when you have two great sanctioning bodies like that in the sport right now?
Yeah, no, it does provide a little bit of a challenge, but, from the business side of it, I see both sanctioning bodies and where they're coming from. And the good thing up here in the North Texas area we're at, there's a great group of racers, and there's a good quantity of racers. So a lot of times you just kind of have to tweak a little bit and make it all work for everybody, and give them a reason to want to choose RPM to come to on Friday nights or any of our special events. And But we've enjoyed our partnership with USRA, Todd Staley, Ryan Staley, Janet Staley, and then Bryce Hall, obviously, come on board with them. And they've given us a lot of support. They've been to our races to help us do some things. And it's always fun to have them down because they see a lot of stuff across the country, and they can say, hey, try this, do this, or maybe this. And something that they learned 10 years ago, maybe they can speed up your learning curve in 5 minutes worth of conversation. So that's what I enjoy about it. You kind of got a sounding board because me and Kevin Sester, like, he probably gets tired listening, but man, I sure come up with some crazy ideas at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got to tell somebody, so he listens to them, and unfortunately Bryce is kind of a sounding board for that too, but I think some of our better creations of events have come at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, but it's just, you never rest with this deal. You always got to be looking, whether you're at a grocery store, at a state fair, or whatever, you're always looking. And when you become a promoter, and you go to a racetrack, it's hard to enjoy just watching good racing anymore because you want to see how they're selling merch, how their concession stands flowing, how they're doing the pit gates, how do they have their banners in the infield and their signage, and what are they doing that's cool that you could maybe take back and replicate at your place. And so it does change your perspective a little bit, and sometimes you miss just being a race fan, but you got to love this to do it, and we have a passion for it, and hopefully we're making a little bit of impression on the world of racing here in North Texas.
Yeah. See, Bobby and I are both race announcers, and I think where we struggle is we go to a racetrack as a fan, we're bitching about the announcer. It's like, oh, wait a minute here.
Well, I tell you, Smiley Sutton told me something years ago. He's a legend, obviously. He started Smiley's Racing Products.
Absolutely.
Done so much for so many, but he told me, so when I first started telling him I want to put some races on, he said, let me give you a piece of advice. You got 2 ways to communicate with your fan base once you start out laps. I said, oh, yeah? He said, yeah, your announcer and your flagman. He said, they're the backbone of your weekly show and your race program.
Yeah.
And it took me a minute, and then I went down to East Bay one year, and I watched their flagman, and he was pretty theatrical on the flag stand. They had a heck of an announce team up top, and they were kind of a show with them themselves, and I thought, man, he nailed it. He's right about this, and because I had no doubt what was going on. I didn't even have to watch the races, and I knew what was happening. Yeah. And that's what we try to provide there. We don't always get it right, but we've got a good – I'll tell you what, I'll brag about our staff. We've got a good group of folks that kind of stepped up with that inaugural Brian Mize event, and a lot of them have stayed with us through all this and committed Friday nights to us. And you can't ever pay them guys and gals near what they're worth to make all this happen. But we have a really good staff of people, a good support system, and a really good group of marketing partners that really help make things happen for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kevin, one of the things I saw, you talk about thinking outside the box, and it's something that I sent to Rodney, and I said, this is the simplest but, yes, greatest idea ever. And it's the signage you put up about the selfie station there with the RPM logo behind it and all your sponsors. Man, tell me that was just something that you came up with on your own at 3 o'clock in the morning.
3 o'clock in the morning.
That is, to me, one of the simplest things. But, man, that's got to make a huge difference with people in this next generation of fans always wanting to take selfies.
Yeah, I'd like to take credit for that, but I saw that at the Race Saver Nationals at Eagle, Nebraska 6 years ago. They had a cutout of a sprint car, and you put your head in it, took a selfie station. They had all their event sponsors and stuff on there, and I thought, this is golden right here. It cost them $50, and somebody spent 30 minutes to make it or whatever, but this is golden. But, yeah, the selfie station gets a lot of traffic, and we get people come in and race, like our buddies over at Racing Dirt were down doing the Southern Nationals, and they stuck one of their decals on there. It's kind of fun. It kind of looks like an old roadie case now from an AC/DC 1979 tour bus, but that's okay, man. It adds character to your place. And I've always said racetracks that have characters are like good downtowns in these small towns. You can kind of tell the economy of a small town by how the quality of their downtown. And I think when you get some character at your racetrack, it sure makes a lot of difference to people.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. It really does. So how tough is it up there? I mean, I know down here, in Central Texas, we've, dirt tracks do really well. I mean, we have several of them. We got one paved track, but up there, I mean, how a lot of competition up there. And I mean, it's a hotbed for racing up there in North Texas.
So there is a lot of competition. We've been pretty blessed with a lot of the USRA tracks. We sit down and kind of work through scheduling and try to stay off each other. And when there's a big show going for mods, we try to let everybody off so they can all support that deal and vice versa and specials throughout the year and stuff. So it takes a little effort. I know y'all was talking scheduling earlier. Kevin Sester does a lion's share of the scheduling, and man, it's a good 90 days worth of phone calls and meetings, and he does a lot to make that work. But at the end of the day, that's what we need to do. I used to sit when I was younger. I'd watch a 10,000 to win mod show, and 30 miles up the road there was a 15,000, and 2 hours to the west of it was a 20. And I was like, this is crazy because these guys would go to all three of them, but now you're making them pick. And anytime you can eliminate that, I think it's best for the racer. And I think when you take care of your racers, your race fans, your marketing partners, the racetracks will kind of take care of themselves. And it's just nothing works without the other. And so you just got to kind of keep everybody doing what we can to make it all work. But yeah, it's a good hotbed, but I like it. You kind of keep on your toes that way. You don't want to, even though we're all buddies, you still want to be the best you can be. And, and I think it's good friendly competition. But like the Edwards family at Devil's Bowl, they've come out. James Bryant, the Super Bowl's come out. Jim Moon at Big O, the guys at 82. We've had so many guys that have some rain or something and trying to get a show in, and they show up with equipment and manpower, and it's kind of cool to see that because they want to see you succeed as well. And so it's a lot of fun up here. It's a challenge some days, but it's a lot of fun, and we got a pretty good working relationship with a lot of these USRA tracks up here.
Mm-hmm.
I think you put the nail on the head when you talk about racetracks working together. I think up in North Texas, it's a little you're more forced upon to work together, even though I know you guys want to work together because the tracks are so much closer up there than they are down here. But I think that the ability for racetracks to work with each other is an unsung specialty that a lot of racetrack promoters, we see it here in Texas a lot where they try to work together. But the fact that you can work with your other racetrack it just speaks volumes about the ability that you help with the racers by, oh, there's a big show, so we're going to let you guys off, or, oh, this track lets you off for this big show, our big show's coming. And I just think that's kind of an unsung, really cool element to racing, especially up there in North Texas, because you do see that a lot.
Well, you have to. It's it's funny. You get all these promoters in the room, and it's like a group of brothers. Y'all all call each other whatever and swing punches or whatever. But when you leave the room, somebody else better not talk bad about one of them. You try to kind of have a band of brotherhood. But last couple of years, we've done some deals. We had a Friday, Sunday show. We worked the Devil's Bowl on Saturday. Had a 3-day combined point fun. That way, it gives some guys instead of coming to town, maybe run all 3 shows. You didn't have to win every night by any means. Just be consistent, pay the top 5, kind of spread the wealth a little bit. Everybody needs a little bit of coin to get home on. So
sure.
Just trying to be creative and do some different things. That's kind of where the KR Cup came from, because I've always said, I don't despise when I see weekly racing on a calendar, but when I see weekly racing on a schedule when I'm out traveling, it doesn't really give me the warm and fuzzies. But if I see, the Platinum Chevrolet Dynamite USRA Fireworks Spectacular Spooky 20, and then you show up and it's weekly racing and they're giving, free glow necklaces for the first 500 kids, the tone has been set different. My mindset's already different when I get there to buy a ticket, go in and watch. And so we came up with that KR Cup to try to make weekly racing just kind of a little more special. And, I think this year we got 13 rounds on the Jill. Last year we had 12. And like, for instance, Clyde Dunn, our modified champion, between the USRA check and our track point funds, a little over $1,800 for 12 nights of racing. So, you try to take care of these racers best you can, and you try to take care of your partners and your staff and your fans. And when you start getting all that kind of clicking, it sure starts. I wouldn't say it gets easier, but it gets a lot more rewarding, and then you start growing and building and trying to, get that good base established for what you're trying to accomplish going forward.
Yep, and everything you're saying there is you operate this thing as a business, and that's the underlying thing I think where people get left behind, because you have to do that. You mentioned that earlier, so I have to ask you. So there, KR, you're a Friday night track. Are Friday nights? Do you have to? Is there extra things you have to do with marketing, or are Friday nights a little tougher? Heart of Texas has been doing it now 55 years, and they've done it, without hesitation. Is Friday night a little harder? Do you have to do just a little bit more? Because people, I guess people still work, but Fridays I would see could be kind of tough.
Fridays sometimes present a challenge. Up here, one thing that's cool about it, there's not a whole lot of Friday night stuff, so we got a lot of good Saturday tracks to pull cars from. So our competition level on Friday night's very tough, because you get the top runners at 6 or 8 of these Saturday night tracks show up on your weekly show. But the thing I've learned about Friday night tracks more than anything, a lot of folks get off work, they go home and grab the wife and kid. Your concession stand better be good. It better be more than just some halfway warm nachos. You need some like legitimate kind of food sources, and so. We try to entertain people. We don't always get it right. That's one of the things for my 2021 mission is I want to entertain. That's what we're in. We're in the entertainment business, and I've come up with a rodeo clown character that I'm going to debut a few times this year. I got me a barrel. I'm going to be a barrel guy with a wireless mic. I've already got the wig, the face paint. I look like an overweight Caitlyn Jenner when I get dressed up, but that's all right. We're there to entertain the people. So we're going to break that thing out and have some fun with the fans and the drivers and the kids, because at the end of the day, that's what we're in the business to do: entertain people, put on a quality show, get them in, get them out, and get people raving about your next event, and that's what you're trying to accomplish with all this.
Love it.
So, Kevin, how do you view social media as a promoter? Obviously, it's a tool that you got to have to get out to the masses. And one of the analogies I use a lot of times on the negative aspect of social media, you could have a perfect night on the racetrack, and all it takes is for one person to get on social media and complain about their cold hot dog, and then it just snowballs from there. Well, what's your stance on it? I mean, do you have you have a sign that says you can't Facebook Live? What's your stance on social media as a promoter nowadays?
Well, I know there's different opinions, so I'll give you my KR-ism on social media.
Yes, sir.
It's probably, besides my race pass, social media is probably the greatest tool a racetrack can have, and I tell you why. Because you can reach the masses. Marketing is expensive. Social media is free. Mm-hmm. And so you can reach it. Now, what I think we're guilty of sometimes is relying solely on social media and forget there's people that still read the newspaper. They listen to FM radio. They watch their local TV. And when the budget allows, we try to do some of that as well. But, yeah, you're going to get it. I had a lady last year gave us a bad Google review because she didn't feel like she got enough jalapenos on her nachos. So, you're going to have some of that. And I told the lady in the concession stand, so just load them up. We'll buy more. They're cheap. Don't want anybody to go home hungry But people, unfortunately in our day and age with camera phones and stuff, everybody's looking for something to go viral and to be social media, YouTube famous. And so that's part of the challenge. But to me, it's a great tool. We use it a lot. I use it for a lot of my businesses. At my field business, for instance, I don't do any print material. It's all social media and word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And we've been blessed over the last few years watching the growth of that. And so it's a good deal. And some of the people that complain about your stuff on social media, if you'll watch, it doesn't matter where they go. Same people complain about the same stuff. So it's one of those, like my dad said, when it's somebody that you respect and they never complain and they have an issue, you might want to really pay attention. You always listen to them, but when it's the same complaint 37 nights in a row from the same people, you kind of got to wonder. But we take everything into consideration. We want it to be an enjoyable experience because people work hard for their money, and we want to give them. I like to, and I always tell Kevin, we always tell our staff and our racers and stuff, we want to sell these folks a ticket when they walk out the front gate. I want them to feel bad they didn't pay enough to get in because that's how good their night was. And do we reach that? Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. Probably more than likely we don't very often. But that's our goal. Every night we open that gate to give them the greatest dirt racing experience they can have that night.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That is a great business plan right there. I love that. So let's talk about this past season. I mean, you had a guy out there in the factory stocks and the limited modifieds, Tommy Davis Jr. He wins both of those championships out there, and those two classes right there. I mean, we're watching the limited modifieds really make their way back again. This factory stock thing is just blowing up, and even the modifieds are really starting to get strong again. So, man, I think those three classes right there are just really leading the charge for dirt track racing.
Yeah, they are, and you talk about Tommy Davis Jr. We got a lot of great racers. He sticks out a lot because this guy, I know this season, one of our class sponsors, Ken Parker Services, gave him some extra money to start tailbacking the feature, and they're going to double pretty much what it paid to win that night, and he did it. Wow. Then he won it coming out of four to the checkers. He put on a show for the people. Nobody was sitting down. The guy's a racer. The good thing is he's a good guy. There's a lot of good folks that race with us like that. I mean, our weekly show is tough because, like I say, we get to draw from several Saturday night tracks, but him and Walter Hamilton put on one of the most epic factory stock battles for the national title this year, and Walter finally edged him on night 3 of the Southern Nationals. And Walter had the worst luck of any racer I've seen in years. It seemed like every time he come to our place, if there was something that could happen, it happened to him twice, it seemed like that night. But he never gave up, and they put on some races at Big O and Super Bowl and Devil's Bowl, and they were slugging it out everywhere they went. And what was fun is always laughing and having a good time in tech. And I thought, there's a story I wish you could put out there, and we're going to work on that. I got some new video equipment, so you're going to see some more video work from 2021 from behind the scenes. I got me a wireless mic now. Heat of the moment, you may get some unfiltered hot mic comments.
Yeah.
We're gonna put our fans and our races right there together, because I think that's what they deserve. Because I tell people all the time, I'll put my races against anybody in the country. If you want to bring your 10, I'll bring my 10. Woo! And I tell everybody everywhere I go, I got the greatest race fans in all the country. And there may be some that think they're better than us, but to me, we got the greatest race fans in all the country, and I'm proud of them. And it's really an honor. It's a lot of work, but it truly is an honor to be associated with so many good people in the stands, in the pits, the marketing side of it. It's we've been very blessed with what we're trying to accomplish down here at the RPM.
Indeed.
So, Kevin, we've had a theme of the night. Obviously, when we talked to Rusty Marcus earlier, you could tell that he put his stamp on to the new Smyrna Speedway and the races they got going on. Obviously, our 30 minutes with you has kind of flown by, and it definitely sounds like you and Kevin have put on a good show and have a hell of a product going there at RPM. So it's good to see that your sense of excitement and your sense of wanting to put down the best show is really coming through. It comes through to us on the show tonight, but it also comes through a lot by what we're hearing about the racetrack and the reviews and stuff we've seen for RPM. So lots of continued success there for 2021.
Yeah, I just got off the phone with Kevin Sestare about an hour before we got on this, and I told him again, I said, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I'm more excited about 2021 than I have been in a lot of years. And I think it's just, 2020 was such a challenging season. We're kind of all learning what our new normal or whatever you want to call it is. And so we've got a good stack of events. Our 6th annual SmackDown, 5th annual Battle Royal that benefits the Parker Lee Project, and 4th annual King of the Rings. That'll be our opening weekend, February 11th, 12th, 13th. Folks, you don't want to miss that one. That's going to be a good one. I've got a video release that'll be coming out New Year's Eve to tell everyone how the Battle Royal is going to take shape, how we're going to do the call-outs this year. It's going to be
nice.
a 5th annual. It's going to be a good one. But, folks, and I always try to do this when I can, the ParkerLeeProject.org, man, check them out. Great organization helping out so many young kids and families across the world. Based in Memphis, Texas, Megan and Philip Smith, great people, great organization, man. Learn their story. If I don't accomplish nothing in motorsports, just hopefully helping spread their word, that'll be all I need, because they do so much. But with that said, that'll also be the inaugural Southern Thrall USRA tour that'll kick off at our place that Friday and Saturday. And I'm super stoked about what Todd and Bryce and those guys are putting together. It's going to be a good touring series for you. You'll see USRA stock cars in Texas for the first time, as long as with the limited mods, the factory stocks, and probably one of my fan favorite classes, or one of my favorite things to watch, these USRA tuners. Man, them guys and gals get after it, and they're doing it on an affordable race car, and it's good to see that class growing. I saw Route 66 and Amarillo added them going into 2021. So we need that division to help keep our racing strong. But we got a heck of a weekend there, and I'll tell both of you guys, anytime y'all can make it up, man, you'll always have tickets at the front window for you. We'd love to have you. Any chance you can get up there. But, folks, you're not going to want to miss that February 11th, 12th, and 13th. That's going to be a fun 3 days of exciting racing action. You never know what we're going to do. You never know what I'm going to do, because Kevin Sestare don't know half the time what I'm going to do, because I work on a whim. Sometimes just wing it. So it's always fun. But, yeah, it's going to be a good deal. And the old Battle Royal, it's fun. We've helped raise a lot of money and awareness for the Parker Lee Project. And I don't know how many guys can say the first race of the year. I've been in all 4 of them. I've top 10 to all 4 of them. I know there's only 10 guys, and we run 10th usually, but not many guys can have a career like that.
That's okay.
So, it's a lot of fun. We enjoy the banner and back and forth, and we've had a lot of great guys and gals help make that race what it is, and I'm pretty proud of that one. So looking forward to all that.
Yeah, but I saw that the Southern Thaw, and I'm like, man, right there, you're doing that shit in February. I mean, that is perfect. I mean, that is going to be so. And I'm with you, man. I always counted top 10s. I was counted top 10s. I don't care if there's 11 cars and I got 10th. I'm top 10. I mean, that's what it's all about. But, man, congratulations on the success there, man. And it's seriously definitely looking to get down there, or up there as it would be, and check it out, because you guys have one hell of a program going on there. And people were reaching out to us. They're like, man, you got to talk to KR, because these guys are doing their thing over there, and it's just a great program. And folks love what you're doing, man, and that's what it's all about. And I love the manner you're doing it. That's good stuff.
Well, I appreciate that, and like I say, I get to do a lot of this sort of thing when it comes to the racetrack, but and I always try to make sure. But Kevin's just there, man. He's the backbone of this deal. He keeps the facility top notch. He does so much to keep it rolling, and he'll listen to my stupid ideas that all hours of the night.
Oh yeah,
we bounce stuff off because
Yep.
I tell him, I said, if we throw enough stuff on the wall, a couple of things will stick and they'll
Yep.
make sense. But man, but we do. We have staff that I put up with anybody, and I'm blessed to be a part of it, and it's a lot of fun. And like I say, we kick off in about 7 weeks, and I can't be more excited. And you can check the schedule out, rpmdirt.com. Go check it out on there. And like I say, I want to plug the good folks at My Race Pass, man. They I tell them all the time, and I don't think people realize it, but probably in the last 10 years in racing, My Race Pass may be one of the most impactful tools that has come along in the last 10 years for racers, race fans, promoters, because we can do so much with it. Results are live, points are live, everything's up to date, current, and it's such a great tool. Those guys have really worked hard to make our weekly racing and our track work a lot less. I mean, 20 years ago, you was facts and papers and putting results down, and now when the race night's over, you're up to date and current, and we couldn't do it without those guys. And so big shout out to what's happening with the guys at My Race Pass, and we appreciate what they contributed to the sport and allowed us to not have that time taken away there, that we can focus on other things. Like one thing I'm proud to announce in 2021, we've already announced the Platinum Chevrolet close to the racetrack down there come on as one of our big supporters, and they're going to be one of the presenting sponsors of KR Cup this year. We got a new 2021 Chevrolet be wrapped in a couple of weeks and have a cool pace truck, and My Race Pass and a lot of the people behind the scenes that free up some of our time to go chase that stuff and made that possible. So a lot of people don't see how all that works together, but we do obviously on the backside, and there's a lot of coordination and just like I say, we're blessed to have a good circle of people that we can count on to help make things happen for us.
And that's a traveling billboard. You get that thing wrapped and you go park it somewhere, you're driving around town, and I mean that's advertising right there. So that's how you get those butts in the seats right there. And I agree with My Race Pass. I always tell race fans when I'm announcing at the track, I'm like, download that and you can announce a race. You can't hear me, you announce a race. Just look at it and you call the race just like everybody else can.
That's right. Yeah, it's fun because I'll be in the infield getting a victory lane, and I need to sign a name to check. I'm not sure how to spell last name. Bam, My Race Pass spells me out every time, So it's little stuff people probably don't even think about. But we had some great points battles going to our final night in like our Eco-Mod division, and James Riddle ended up winning it, but the kid that was running second, he ran like second to feature, and James had to run a certain. So as soon as the results were in there, our points were updated, and we was able to declare a champion. And so, things that used to, there'd be a 48-hour delay on. Now there's a 48-second delay on, and bam, you're making an announcement, and it's good for business, and they can have the little post-race parties. And like I say, they're a great tool, man. I'm very blessed to have the partnership we have with them and the support that they've offered us.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, man. So Great American Racing Show coming up January 22nd, 23rd. You got the Battle at the Barn, then you got the Southern Thaw. So, man, it's time to get rolling, my man. You better get some rest while you can, KR. You're about to be really damn busy.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the opportunity, man, and kudos what you guys are doing with this race show. I enjoy watching it, and very well done. Love how informative it is, and is honored to be asked to be on there tonight, so we appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely, man. Anytime, reach out. You got something we can help you with, we'd love to be a part of it, man. Just let us know.
Man, we sure appreciate it.
You got it. Take care, my friend.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the call.
Yes, sir. There he is. Kevin Rogers. Now, we had two I'm tired listening to those two guys. I ran out of beer listening to those two guys. That's a good show. That's a good show.
And not in a bad way, right?
No.
I mean, those guys, you could turn them loose and they could talk for hours about racing, and you could learn. I learned a lot about the backside of promotion stuff, and even as much as we're involved in the backside of the promotion on different kind of racetracks with Houston and Cotton Bowl and all the other tracks that we've CTS and all the stuff that we've been involved in. Something as simple as, now I have a new analogy, not having enough jalapenos on the nachos, not just the cold hot dog anymore. Now we got the jalapenos on the nachos. But man, it is like he said, you're always looking at a racetrack. We do it all the time. We complain about announcers, or we complain about a lack of this and a lack of that, but I mean, it's got to be tough being the promoter, because you imagine everything you'd be looking at every time you go to a racetrack. You're watching and everything, just like Kevin said.
Yeah, we're gonna get that. We're gonna get those two and I love that they're back to back. There's no downtime in between. We went right from Rusty to to KR right there, because I'm going to get those podcasted up. We're going to get those put up. And what that needs to be something where if you're a track operator, you're a track fan, whatever it is, if you ever get down, if you ever need something to go back to, you need to go listen to what we just listened to here for the last hour. Because, and that, I tell you what's even cooler about that, Bobby, you've got a pavement track and you've got a dirt track. And they're telling you what I think one of the most powerful things that Kevin Rogers talked about is how those tracks, because there's a shitload of them up there, how they work together, how they try to figure out ways to make it work for all, and they all do well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're not raking in money, but they're not having to back up the Brinks truck, but at least they're working. They have found that working together makes the bottom line work that much better for them and the way that it works. I was interested in his take on running on a Friday night. I like what he said about, because that's the one thing you say about Waco. Waco's always got damn good concessions, because really, if you get off of work,
that's a great
point. To the racetrack, you don't have a chance to really eat when you go to the race before you get to the races. So now it makes sense why Waco's food's always been just a top-notch deal when you go to eat at Heart of Texas.
Yep. And if you think about Pan American Speedway, back in the old days, I saw some pictures floating around of that old place, and one of the things that Ricky Ware Senior did at Pan American there, the concession stand was right under the stands. He went out and he had great concessions, and what he did is he purposely would the smoke thing was, it would go straight up and into the stands, and you would smell those burgers or whatever it was. And it's all a method. It's all a method, and both of those guys just doing exceptional jobs. And they're with Rusty. I mean, to go in and operate that place. I mean to run New Smyrna Speedway. Man, how damn cool is that? Has to be. He's got to wake up every morning, and I bet he wakes up every morning. He's just as hyper as he was on that call.
Every time I've ever talked to him, he's been that hyper.
Yeah, no doubt. Exceptional stuff right there, as we thank Rusty Marcus and Kevin Rogers for jumping in and being a part of all of that. And again, there it is, rpmdirt.com, and of course newsmyrnaspeedway.com. As both of those tracks, they're starting to crank up. Go to New Smyrna Speedway on Facebook, and you can see the quarter midget stuff is going on all day as they get ready for the Red Eye 50/50. So, Bobby, are you ready to put 2020 to bed? Are you done with it? Are you ready to move forward? And again, nothing's really going to change when we flip that year, but at least to kind of get away from 2020.
I think that a lot's not going to change here in the beginning, but I feel like a lot of people have a bigger and better outlook for 2021.
Yeah.
As we said on this show multiple times, we've learned, the racers and the race fans have learned not to take racing for granted anymore. We've mentioned that a bunch of times, and I think that some of the different things now, granted, people are still getting out. People are still doing, groups and stuff, but I think there's been a little bit of stuff missing in 2020 that people are going to look forward to in 2021. Getting your groups a little bit bigger, going out, having a good time, but to having it responsibly. So I think that there's enough good stuff on tap for 2021 that it's got a lot of people excited to put past this last 12 months. Actually, not even 12 months. The last 9 months have been kind of a bitch here lately. But the first part, January, February, and the first part of March actually weren't too terribly bad. So hopefully we can carry on some good vibes in 2021.
I was thinking about that earlier. You had to know when we lost Kobe Bryant. I mean, I don't know, basketball fans, whatever the case may be, but you had to know when Kobe Bryant and his daughter died in a plane accident, and then shortly thereafter, we thought we lost Ryan Newman on the racing side. That would have been just a gut punch. That would have, oh my goodness, that would have been just horrid. You had to know when you started out like that. And it's funny when you go back and you watch the ball drop from last, New Year's Eve. Who'd have thunk? Who would have ever thought that we would have been locked down, wearing masks everywhere? Now they're even talking about in Austin maybe a curfew. Who would have ever thought? And through all of this, racing has been the one sport, and I know folks don't want to admit it, but led by NASCAR, that really brought mainstream stuff back. You remember that weekend? I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I talked to when NASCAR was coming back to Darlington. It's like phones ringing off the hook. Well, I guess they're not on hooks anymore, but it's like random people. And it's like, please, we want to talk to you about NASCAR, about them coming back. I'm like, they're going to race with no fans. That's really all that's happening.
Yeah. And who would have thought we'd seen that, right? Never would have thought we'd seen that. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in 2021? I'm trying to stay positive about it. You never know what's in store, but I think that it can only really get better, right? Like I said, hopefully 2021 is just an anomaly of a year and not the start of a really shitty decade.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't see anybody throwing out New Year's resolutions, so I don't know what people are doing. I saw something on Facebook today where a friend of mine posted, and she said, "Who the hell wants to hang out with a skinny girl with a great attitude? I'm not changing anything." No New Year's resolutions. So I don't know. Yeah, do what you got to do there. And I would think after 2020, you have probably other ways to think of resolutions right about now.
Yeah, other ways to think of resolutions. Don't get smacked in the face with twisted tea. That'd be one of them.
And not only that, friends, hell, it may, again, they're talking about snow flurries in central Texas with a low of 33. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work out. But, hey, it's happened before. Maybe we get it again.
You never know. Never know with this crazy central Texas weather.
2020, waiting for the finale, as they said at El Arroyo. But, hey, we're moving forward. 2021, we're back next Monday. We will talk to Owen Pittman. He's going to release his brand new schedule from Texana Raceway Park. That's coming up. Bobby, I know it's been a tough day, my man. My heart's with you. You and Liz, have a happy New Year, man. And all of you checking in. Be good, buddy.
Yeah, happy New Year to you and the family and everybody else out there in Radio Land.
Absolutely. We are back next Monday. It's #Real Race Talk from Texas. Revved Up Sports Show.